Hey everyone, for those of you who are new around here, my name is Kim from Kim Creates Stuff. That's my YouTube channel. For those of you who are returning and already subscribed to me, welcome back. So I'm going to go ahead and do this whole Booktube Newbie tag thing, mainly because I've decided to start different series on my channel to highlight things that make me happy. And I guess I'll just go ahead and get into the questions, and I'm copying some questions from other people that I've seen do this newbie tag thing. So I'm just going to go down 10 questions that I got from other people and so go ahead and get started. Number one, why did you start this channel? Well, I already had the channel. For the longest time, I've been doing different things of what I felt I wanted to highlight on my channel. And the problem was none of it really felt authentic to me. While these were hobbies that I enjoyed, they weren't really things that I wanted to film a YouTube video about. And it became more of a chore. One example of that was bullet journaling. I love to bullet journal, I do. But feeling like I couldn't start my newest theme for the month because I hadn't filmed it for YouTube yet, it started to become very annoying for me. And with this, with the way I'm pivoting my channel, I am trying to focus on things that makes me happy, that's going to try to lead me to a healthier me. And that also includes my weight loss journey, as well as hobbies that I want to indulge in, but not see them as such a serious thing. Like, I've got to do this for YouTube. I got to do this for YouTube, but still being able to highlight them and have fun with it. And also, I was on TikTok for the longest time, and TikTok is not allowing us to do weight loss content anymore. So I was basically forced to come back to YouTube if I wanted to do any of my weight loss content. But with Booktube, I really like this sort of community. I've been kind of lurking in the community for a few years now. And I was like, you know what? Why am I not doing this? Why am I not a part of this? And I decided, you know what? Then bite the bullet and start being a part of it. So this is going to be a series on my channel. And I hope I can have fun with this. Number two, what can you bring to Booktube? Well, I am an older millennial auntie. So yeah, I can bring my experience. I don't want to say my age, but my experience to Booktube, and also my different perspective on different books and stuff to Booktube. I have a very eclectic taste when it comes to books, just like I do with music. So I feel like I can bring all of that to the community and definitely give you guys an interesting take on different books and on different genres and stuff like that. That's pretty much it with that one. Number three, what are you most excited about? I'm excited that I can see over the last couple of years that Booktube, which is traditionally young white people, mainly young white girls, I'm seeing a lot of older people in the community, but most importantly, a lot of more people of color in the community. And I love that. I went through earlier and just subscribed to every person of color I saw who had a Booktube channel. I'm like, I gotta support my people. I do. I really do. I love the fact that people of color, young and old, are getting into reading again. And it's so important that we do that. It's so important that we find ourselves within books. We find ourselves within that sort of community. And if we can do this and get together, power through some great books, then, so be it. And that's what I'm very excited about. And again, me bringing my experience can bring a different perspective. And I just definitely want to be a part of this greatness. Number four, what got you into reading? When I was a kid, I read the typical children's books, Fraggle Rock, Berenstain Bears and stuff. And I always loved those books. But what ultimately got me addicted to reading, if you could say it like that, was a series growing up called The Babysitter's Club. And I know they're still around, but the heyday was in the 80s and 90s. And I loved those books so much. I felt like these are like my friends. Like, these books are like my friends. And I remember thinking to myself when I was a kid that I wish I had a group of friends like The Babysitter's Club. I wish I had that kind of like, I guess, a little side business. I tried to start my own Babysitter's Club. It didn't quite work. But I loved that series so much. And I thought the characters were so cool. My favorite was always Claudia. She was so artsy. She was so cool. She was so creative and just so funky with her style. And I just loved it. Another series I liked growing up was a series called the Mandy series. And this was a Christian series because I went to a Christian school for a number of years. And it was like the Christian version of Nancy Drew. It took place during the Civil War, post-Civil War era. And it follows this little girl who's at a boarding school. All of her experiences are basically her solving mysteries and stuff. Even though the Christian things were not overt in the book, you kind of forget it is a Christian book because, again, it was like Nancy Drew set during colonial times. And I love that series because I thought this girl's like 11 years old. She was my age essentially at the time. She's solving mysteries. She's so cool. I don't know why I never got into Nancy Drew, but I got very much into these books, and they're hard to find now. Like I don't know what happened to the ones I had at my parents' house. I guess my mom threw them away. I don't know. But if you have a young girl who likes mysteries, I would say the Mandy books would definitely be something you would want to get your daughter into. Number 5, why do I love reading? Escapism. The same reason why we love movies. I love escaping into other people's stories and other people's like worlds, especially when you have series like the Harry Potter series or the Lord of the Rings series or the Narnia series. You are literally transported to a different world where it has its own language, its own canon, everything. I love having that moment where I can just go and live someone else's life in perspective. I used to not like biographies, but I started getting into biographies at some point in my life because I wanted to see, like, have that kind of peek behind the curtain of someone's life and of someone's, experiences and stuff. And also just to see what that person is thinking like for themselves. And one of the biographies I remember reading that kind of made me go, was Bill Clinton's biography. And just wanting to know what is he going to say? What secrets is he going to spill? And when he was asked why he had the affair with Monica Lewinsky, he said, because I could. And at the time I was like, oh my God, what a jerk. Why would he say that? But it made me think, this is a man who's one of the most powerful men in the world, and he did it just because he could. And that's why I started to appreciate biographies and autobiographies because, again, you can peek into someone else's mind and life, someone that you've seen from afar, like a celebrity or historical figure, and you're getting to see a different take on who they are as a person. So that's mainly why I love reading. It's just, again, the escapism and also being able to be transported to a different world and a different life and a different reality. The book/series that got you into reading. I said earlier, Babysitter's Club and the Mandy books, those got me into reading. But interestingly enough, the book that got me really into reading, it's more of a play, and that was William Shakespeare's Hamlet. I had a teacher in 5th grade that she felt like I wasn't reading on a high enough grade level. So she decided to challenge me by having me read Romeo and Juliet. She was like, and I know that, like, yes, I'm not lying. I was 10 years old. And I did have to look up a lot of words in the dictionary, but I got through it, and she asked me what I thought of it, and I said, well, I think that they were stupid. And I went on and on about how I thought Romeo and Juliet were, dumb teenagers who just could not be apart, and they were immature and blah, blah, blah. So then she gave me Hamlet to read. And when I was done with that one, came back to her, she said, well, what did you think of it? And I told her I loved it. I love the fact that it was a revenge story, essentially, that that he was pretending to be crazy, but is he crazy? And from then on, she started handing me all Shakespeare stuff to challenge me to see if I could read it and get through it, and if I could actually comprehend what I'm reading. So as much as I love the simplistic Babysitter's Club books, the Mandy books, and all the other young people stuff that you would imagine a 10-year-old girl to be reading, to get into Shakespeare that young, that definitely changed everything for me in terms of what got me to truly love reading. So Mrs. Coffin, if you're out there, I love you. Thank you so much for that. Number 7, what challenges do I think having this YouTube channel will create? It's going to be the same challenges I've been facing with my YouTube channel for years now. And that's basically procrastination, time management, and also not feeling burnt out on having to create content. That's been my biggest challenge. It's always because I work a full-time job and my schedule is kind of weird because I work in a library, which of course any book nerd out there knows that working in a library is like the thing to do. That's like your dream job. So yes, I'm working my dream job, but because I'm so busy all the time, I don't have a lot of time left over to do YouTube stuff or content creation, and I end up having to find some way to juggle between spending time with my husband and doing work stuff, and then having other things in my schedule, like doing social stuff. So I am concerned about the time management aspect and finding time to just knuckle down and force myself to do the content without getting burned out and also without getting tired of doing it in general and looking at it like a chore, because that's what happened to me previously in the last couple of years. I started looking at content creation as a chore instead of something that can be enjoyed. I think that'll be a huge challenge going forward, because it's always been the challenge for me. So I'm hoping that being a part of this community with this particular Booktube series will help me find my love for content creation again, but most importantly, will help me find my love for reading and sharing it with others again. Number 8, where do you read? Pretty much anywhere. I prefer to be reading in places where I'm comfortable, physically comfortable, like my bed, sitting in a comfy chair at home. But strangely enough, I'm one of those people who feels like reading is a private, intimate act. I don't read in public. I know it sounds crazy, but I don't really see the point of it. So I'm generally at home reading and curled up in bed, in a chair. If I'm listening to audiobook, usually I'm doing chores. I listen to audiobooks a lot in the shower. It all depends. Also, if I'm commuting, driving to and from work and somewhere else, I'll have an audiobook going. That's usually how I do most of my reading, is audiobook. If you want to, I know some people, that's controversial that some people say that listening to an audiobook is not really reading. It's reading to me. I'm tired of people saying that. We're not going to fight and quibble over that anymore. Yeah, I see listening to books or reading books as such a private thing. I don't do it in public. I generally do it at home, and that's the way I prefer it. I know it sounds strange to some people, but that is the way I prefer it. Question number 9. What kind of books do you like? Pretty much everything. I will read everything and anything. In the last several years, I've been getting into cryptozoic type books. There's this author in Australia named Greg Beck, and he wrote a series of books about a megalodon shark. And I really got into those books because the first book is especially called Fathomless. It was so exciting. It's so scary as far as like you're trapped deep underwater in an underwater cave, and there's this ancient megalodon shark that's stalking those waters. I really got into those books. Next thing I know, I'm starting to look at more and more books there of a similar theme. Horror books especially. I love horror novels, especially gothic horror. Of course, I have my classic books that I like, such as, Jane Austen, the Bronte sisters. I'm not a big fan of Dickens, though. I don't know why. I'm not a big fan of him. But I love all my classic novels. But like I said, anything and everything I will read. I'm trying to get into sort of the ones that encourage you to not overthink stuff, and also how to, time management, how to build good, healthy habits. I'm trying to read those types of books, but those aren't the ones that I'm into. I will read a lot of nonfiction. One of my favorite nonfiction books is a book by a man named John Ronson, and it's called So You've Been Publicly Shamed. I always recommend this book to people because it is an amazing book talking about cancel culture before we knew it as cancel culture, because the book was written back in like 2010, 2011. And I really, really hope, John Ronson, if you're listening, I need you to write a follow-up to that book, because cancel culture is crazy now. I need to hear your opinion on how it is now in the 2020s. I need to hear it now. So I love his books. Basically read everything from things like Dan Brown, political thrillers, mysteries, romance novels. I'm not as much into. I'm trying to set aside my own prejudices against romance novels. So I'm going to need someone to recommend some good ones to me, because every time I think of romance novels, I think of like Danielle Steele and the bodice ripping books that we know from old school romance books. I'm going to need some help with romance novel recommendations, definitely. Finally, question 10. What book changed your life? Honestly, I was in high school and I read this book. It was Jude the Obscure by Thomas Hardy. And the reason I say that this book changed my life is because I was going through a lot with my mental health at that age. Of course, you're a teenager, you're questioning your existence in life, you're questioning your future. And I looked at the character Jude Fawley and I identified with him. Basically, the book is about a guy who grows up poor, and all he can think about is he wants to go to the local university and become a scholar. And in the book, the university obviously is modeled after Oxford in the UK, and try as he cannot get in. He's a very intelligent man. It's because of his socioeconomic status, and also because, some people can kind of see through the fact that he sees intelligence in academic progress and being an intellectual as a key to a better life. People are kind of looking at him like a social climber almost. And I love the character because every time he tries to succeed at anything, he gets knocked back down again. And at that age, 16, 17 years old, I felt felt like that no matter what I did, I could not achieve greatness. I couldn't succeed at anything. And I was like, man, I'm just like Jude the Obscure. And the reason why he's looked at as obscure is because he's going to die a nobody. Like from the beginning of the book, you know this is not going to end well for him. That he's going to die a nobody and that no one will mourn him. All the choices he's made up to that point in his life were meaningless. He's never going to achieve anything. He's never going to do anything with his life. And again, it's not because of a lack of effort. It's just, that's just the way that life works sometimes. And it told me that life isn't fair. It's not going to be great for everyone. That sometimes some people just have bad luck. Sometimes the circumstances that you're born into, hard for you to get out of that environment. So it was one of those life lesson books. So that's why I always say to people, if you want to read a book that's a little depressing, but will have you really thinking, I always recommend Jude the Obscure to them. To everyone. I even bought a copy for a friend of mine last year and said, here, you're reading this. But yeah, that's basically, those are my Booktube Newbie intro tag questions. And so I just want to thank you guys for sticking with me throughout this video. I know I ramble a little bit, but that's just how I am. So I hope you enjoy this. I hope you stick around also for my future Booktube videos and for any of my other videos. Again, like I said, I'm starting this series because I'm trying to find things. My whole thing with my channel is to lead things that will lead me to a happier, healthier me, be it physical health, mental health, whatever. That's how I'm seeing it. And I just hope that you guys are going to stick around for that journey. And I thank you so much for watching this video. Like, subscribe, do whatever you got to do. And I'll see you next time. Bye.